Welcome to News 9. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and you are watching On Point. On Point 1 is about Iran buckling under US pressure and postponing the decision to hang dissidents. The West Asia remains on alert as US dispatches strike group carrier USS Abraham Lincoln to the Gulf. In On Point 2, we will talk about the first medical evacuation in space. Crew of 4 astronauts safely reaches Earth. On Point 3 is about record-breaking snow in Moscow that broke the record of 146 years. Rare storm dumps 42% of annual snow in 24 hours. On Point 4 is about ice memorial in Antarctica that will store ice cores from melting glaciers across the world. On Point 5 is about killing of 15 Hindus in last 45 days. Killings have taken place Taliban style and Yunus government calls it a propaganda instead of providing protection to them. On Point 6 is about contours of Islamic NATO emerges. Saudi Arabia's money and Turkish technology all set to provide muscle to Pakistan's global agenda. Now let's take a quick look at the headlines. Supreme relief for ED in IPAC raid case. SC stays 3 FIRs filed against ED officers until next hearing. Big blow to Mamta. SC issues notice to West Bengal government. Response sought in 2 weeks. United States civic polls from Mumbai, Pune and 27 other corporations make and break for Thackeray brothers in Mumbai. US President Donald Trump has temporarily stepped back from threats to strike Iran, saying he has been assured that Tehran has stopped killing protesters and that no executions are planned. Speaking at the White House late Wednesday, Trump said he had been told by what he called very important sources that the Iranian government has halted the use of lethal force against demonstrators. He added that there is no plan to carry out execution of people arrested during nationwide protests, though he admitted the United States has not independently verified these claims. Just days ago, Trump had warned that the US was locked and loaded to act if Iran continued firing on protesters. But despite reports that thousands may have been killed and that executions were imminent, Trump made no announcement on military action. It is understood he reviewed a full range of options but was unconvinced that any single strike would lead to a decisive change inside Iran. Trump said Tehran had earlier planned multiple executions on Wednesday, but later backed down. He did not give a confirmed death toll, with estimates ranging from under 2,000 to more than 12,000. The president has also faced strong pressure from West Asian leaders not to carry out strikes, warning that Iran would retaliate against US military bases across the region. Asked if military action was now off the table, Trump said Washington would watch it and see what the process is. Earlier, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told Fox News that there was no plan to execute protesters and said hanging was out of the question. However, Iran's judiciary has sent mixed signals saying any action would be taken quickly and at the right time. One of the most closely watched cases is that of Erfan Soltani, the first protester sentenced to death. He was expected to be executed on Wednesday, but his family has now been told the sentence has been postponed. Tensions remain high. Iran's internet blackout has entered its 8th day. Before Trump's remarks, Tehran shut its airspace to most flights, forcing airlines to avoid Iranian and Iraqi skies. US personnel in Qatar, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia have been advised to reduce their presence, while Britain has begun evacuating staff from Tehran. A senior Iranian official has warned that the countries hosting US bases would be targeted if Washington strikes Iran. Despite the threats, Aragachi has now urged the US to pursue diplomacy instead of war. Global markets reacted quickly to Trump's comments, with oil prices falling as fears of disruption eased. The UN Security Council is set to meet on the crisis, while G7 nations have warned that they are prepared to impose new sanctions over Iran's violent crackdown. United States is moving to USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group towards the Gulf amid rising tensions with Iran. The carrier and its accompanying warships are transiting from the South China Sea towards the Arabian Sea, a journey expected to take about a week and signaling a significant shift in USA's military posture in the region. At the same time, Pentagon is withdrawing some forces from air bases in West Asia, a move officials link to growing concerns over potential conflict and security risks. The dual shift highlights the US balancing a show of strength with force protection as tensions escalate in the region. This move shows Washington is both projecting power and protecting its troops as the Iran crisis deepens. The situation in West Asia remains tense as there is no clarity on US intervention in Iran. One thing is clear, that the threat has worked out and clergy has reduced blunt force on the protesters. So this was on point 1. In the next on point, we will talk about medical evacuation in space. In on point 2, we will talk about the first medical evacuation in space, crew of 4 astronauts who have safely reached from ISS module. NASA has carried out a historic first, completing the world's first medical evacuation from space after astronauts aboard the International Space Station were brought home early due to a health concern affecting one crew member. In a rare move, the SpaceX crew Dragon Endeavour carrying the crew 11 astronauts splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego early Thursday morning.
After discussions with Chief Health and Medical Officer Dr. J.D. Polk and leadership across the agency, I've come to the decision that it's in the best interest of our astronauts to return Crew 11 ahead of their planned departure. Within the coming days, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft will depart the International Space Station with Commander Zina Cardman, pilot Mike Fink, Kimya Yui from JAXA, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos, and safely return them to Earth. We expect to provide a further update within the next 48 hours as to the anticipated undock and reentry timeline.
The multinational team, including NASA astronaut Zina Cardman and Mike Finke, Japan's Kimya Yui, and Russian cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. They had been on the ISS conducting a scientific research and station maintenance when NASA made the decision to bring them home more than a month ahead of their planned Feb return. It was NASA's January 8th decision to cut the mission short after a serious but stable medical issue emerged involving one of the crew members. Out of respect for privacy, officials have not disclosed the name of the astronaut or specific nature of the condition, but have emphasized that the individual is stable and being cared for. This marks the first time in the ISIS 25 years history that a mission has been ended early due to medical reasons, underscoring how critical astronaut health is in long-duration space flight. The return was deemed precautionary rather than an emergency. NASA followed standard splashdown and recovery procedures, with recovery teams staging in the Pacific to retrieve the capsules and provide medical evaluation as soon as the astronauts were safely aboard ship. Before the decision to come home early, a planned spacewalk was cancelled and station operations were adjusted to prioritize the healthcare response. Crew 11 mission, which launched in August 2025, was also part of a broader era of international cooperation aboard the ISS, with US, Japanese and Russian crew members working together on experiments in microgravity, human health research and Earth observation. As the astronauts touched down off California, weather conditions were favorable, allowing for smooth re-entry and parachute-assisted splashdown early Thursday. Recovery helicopters and boats were hand-on and quickly brought the crew safely ashore for post-flight checks. NASA administrator Jar Isaacman said the decision to return the crew early reflects the agency's commitment to astronaut safety above all else and highlights the challenges of providing comprehensive medical care in orbit. Scientists and engineers will now review the procedures and medical protocols that made this unprecedented evacuation possible, lessons that could be vital as NASA prepares for future missions, including its Artemis lunar program and longer stays in space. For now, the space agency and the families of the Crew 11 astronauts can breathe a collective sign of relief. All four are back on Earth safely, reminding the world of both fragility and resilience of human space exploration. Now, in the next on point, we will talk about record snowfall in Moscow. Moscow has just witnessed one of the most intense snowfalls in its recorded history as a powerful winter storm blanketed the Russian capital in deep snow, disrupting daily life and setting new meteorological benchmarks. According to Russia's Hydrometeorological Center, the snowfall that hit Moscow on January 9th ranks among the strongest ever recorded in the city's long history of weather observations. In just 24 hours, Moscow received 21.4 millimeters of precipitation, nearly 40% of the city's total monthly snowfall compressed into a single day. Meteorologists say that this places the storm among the top snowfall events Moscow has experienced in more than a century. Data from VDNH meteorological station, which serves as the city's primary climate benchmark, shows that only a handful of snowfalls have ever exceeded this level. The strongest was on Feb 4th, 2018, when 24.2 millimeters fell in one day. Other comparable storms were recorded on December 14, 1981, January 8, 1970, and December 12, 2022, meaning Moscow has seen snowfall of this magnitude just 4 times more than 50 years. When the storm finally subsided, the scale of the impact became clear. The snow cover across Moscow reached between 30 to 38 centimeters, burying roads, pavements, and packed vehicles under heavy layers of ice and snow. In the surrounding Moscow region, the situation was even more extreme, with the Cherutsi meteorological station recording snow depth up to 51 centimeters, nearly half a meter of snow. The Hydrometeorological Center says that over 146 years of winter weather record has been broken. Moscow has experienced only 24 heavy snowfall events in which daily precipitation exceeded 15 millimeters. That means storms of this intensity typically occur once every 5 to 6 years, making January 9th snowfall not just severe, but statistically rare. For the city's residents, storm brought Moscow almost to a standstill. Snowplows and emergency crews were deployed across the capital to keep major roads open, while workers cleared sidewalks, public transport stops, and residential buildings. Airports, rail services, and traffic networks faced delays as the crews struggled to keep up with the pace of accumulation. Heavy snow of this kind is not just a nuisance. It also poses real safety risks. Large volumes of wet snow can collapse trees, damage power lines, and overload rooftops, especially on older buildings. Authorities in Moscow issued advisory urging residents to avoid unnecessary travel and to stay clear of unstable structures, while municipal services worked around the clock to remove snow from streets and roofs. Meteorologists say that the intensity of the storm was driven by a powerful winter weather system that pushed moisture-rich air into the Moscow region, where it collided with freezing temperatures. The result was sustained heavy snowfall over many hours, exactly the kind of condition needed to produce record-breaking accumulation. While Moscow is no stranger to harsh winters, events of this scale are becoming harder to ignore. Weather experts note that climate patterns are becoming more volatile, with longer dry spells sometimes followed by short bursts of extreme precipitation, whether rain or snow. For now, Moscow is focused on recovery. Crew continues to clearing streets, residents are digging out their cars, and city services are restoring normal movement across the capital. But January 9th, snowfall will go down in history books as one of the most dramatic winter events Moscow has ever seen. A storm that dumped nearly half a month's snow in a single day has once again reminded the city the power of winter and how even a modern city can be brought to a halt by nature. Now in next on point, we will talk about the ice memorial in Antarctica. Scientists have inaugurated the world's first global repository of mountain ice cores, creating a frozen cores and a frozen archive in Antarctica that will preserve the history of Earth's atmosphere for future generations, just as climate change rapidly melts glaciers across the planet. This new vault, often compared to the famous Seed Vault in Norway, is designed to safeguard ice cores, which scientists describe as natural time capsules. Each ice core contains layers of snow that have fallen years after years, trapping tiny bubbles of ancient air, along with the dust, pollution, and chemical traces. Together, they create a detailed frozen record of what Earth's atmosphere looked like thousands of years ago. As global temperature rises, glaciers are melting at an unprecedented pace. Many mountain glaciers are expected to disappear entirely within decades, taking with them the priceless climate record. This is why scientists are now racing against time, drilling ice cores from glaciers around the world before the ice melts away forever. The first two ice cores stored in the new Antarctic vault were drilled from the two iconic alpine glaciers, Mont Blanc in France and Grand Corbeil in Switzerland. These samples have been placed inside a specifically carved snow cave at Concordia research station on the Antarctic plateau, where temperatures remain at the constant minus 52 degrees Celsius. These naturally extreme conditions make Antarctica the perfect deep freeze for preserving ice for centuries. The project is led by Ice Memory Foundation, a consortium of European research institutions. To get the ice safely to Antarctica, boxes containing 1.7 tons of ice were transported on 50-day refrigerated journey by ships from Trieste in Italy to the frozen continent, a delicate operation designed to ensure the ice never warmed or degraded. According to Carlo Barbante, the Vice Chair of the Ice Memory Foundation and Professor at the Ca' Foscari University in Venice, the goal is to preserve the physical evidence of Earth's past atmosphere. He says these ice layers contain atmospheric gases, aerosols, pollutants, and dust that allow scientists to reconstruct past climates, and that future generations using technologies that may not yet exist will be able to extract even more information from frozen samples. The Ice Memory Foundation was launched in 2015 by leading research institutes from France, Italy, and Switzerland, including France's National Center for Scientific Research, the University of Grenoble Alpes, Italy's National Research Council, and Switzerland's Paul Schröer Institute. Together, they are building what amounts to a global climate memory bank. So far, scientists have already drilled ice cores at 10 glacier sites around the world, from Alps to other high mountain ranges. Many more glaciers are planned to be sampled in the coming years before the ice lost to the warming temperatures. The long-term ambition is even bigger. Over the next decade, the project aims to establish an international convention that will legally protect these ice samples, ensuring that they remain preserved and accessible for scientists far into the future. The urgency behind the project is clear. Since the year 2000, glaciers around the world have lost between 2 and 39% of their ice, depending on the region. Globally, about 5% of all glaciers' ice has disappeared. Every year that passes increases the risk that irreplaceable climate data will simply melt away. The Celeste Solo, the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, says that these ice cores are not relics. They are reference points. They allow scientists today and in future to understand exactly how Earth's climate has changed, how fast those changes happen, and what caused them. In a world where climate change is accelerating, this frozen vault in Antarctica is now humanity's last line of defense for preserving the memory of the planet before it disappears forever. Now it's time for a break, but don't go away, because in the next On Point, when I'm back, we will talk about Hindu killings in Bangladesh.
फाइनली हमारा घर।
तुम्हारी जिद का नतीजा।
मैं नहीं होती तो तुम्हारा क्या होता?
इनकी जिद ने आज इन्हें दिया एक परमानेंट एड्रेस टाटा कैपिटल होम लोन्स के साथ।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Open it up, what do you see? A champion inside you and me. Run, sing, build, dream so high. Touch the stars, reach the sky. At Orchid School we all believe every child's born to achieve.
Irregular periods and unbearable pain. उसके लिए क्या करूं?
2 स्पून काफी है। ये प्रॉब्लम दूर करने के लिए लायन डेट सिरप, इसमें आयरन, फाइबर्स, विटामिन्स, किसी भी बीमारी से लड़ने की ताकत बहुत ज्यादा है। रोजाना 2 स्पून लायन डेट सिरप हल्के गर्म दूध में भी मिलाकर पी सकते हैं। लायन डेट सिरप रोजाना 2 स्पून।
लूजर।
लाइफ हो या इन्वेस्टिंग, ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस से नुकसान भी हो सकता है। म्यूचुअल फंड अपनाओ और थोड़ी हेवी लिफ्टिंग एक्सपर्ट्स को भी करने दो।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Now let's talk about Bangladesh. 15 Hindus have been killed in the last 45 days. The Rights and Risk Analysis Group in a report has stated that in the last 45 days, between 1st December 25 to 15 January 26, at least 15 minority Hindus were murdered by persons belonging to the majority Muslims in Bangladesh. Murder of one Hindu every third day. The minority Hindus murdered are Sameer Das and Pralay Chaki on 11 January 26, Joy Mahapatra on 10 January 26, Mithun Sarkar and Sarat Mani Chakrabarti on 6 January 26, Rana Pratap Bairagi on 5th January 26, Khokhan Chandradas on 31st December 25, Bajendra Biswas on 29 December 25, Amrit Mondal on 24 December 25, Deepu Chandradas on 18 December 2025, Shant Chandradas on 12 December 2025, Jogesh Chandra Roy and Subarna Roy on 7 December 2025, and Pratosh Kormakar and Utpal Sarkar on 2nd December 2025. The murdered victims include elderly women like Subarna Roy and youth like 18-year-old Shanta Chandra Das. All the cases of murder were premeditated, often targeting the assets of the victims such as Sameer Das and Shanta Chandra Das, whose auto rickshaws were taken away. A number of murders were committed in a Taliban style by slitting the throats such as of Rana Pratap Bairagi, Shanta Chandra Das, Jogesh Chandra Roy and Subarna Roy. These murders are just tip of the iceberg on other daily acts of violence against Hindus and other minorities across Bangladesh, and they do not make news in the media. The extreme vulnerability of the Hindu minorities in Bangladesh faces a new challenge. Unlike the previous governments, whether the Awami League or the Bangladesh National Party, the interim government led by Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus has been dismissing any religious angles to these attacks, often before inquiry into the murders happens. Dr. Yunus has been building such narrative to dismiss attacks on Hindu minorities as disinformation campaign by India. Chief Advisor Dr. Yunus Muhammad went a step further. On 13 January 2026, he approached the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Volker Turk, for technical assistance to address disinformation campaigns during elections. The attack on Hindu minorities during the election campaign will be dismissed as disinformation campaign and otherwise friendly election between parties like BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami. This is what I expect would happen. Once election campaigning begins on 22nd January 2026, the minorities, especially the Hindus, will face unprecedented violence because of their religious belief. These acts of violence against Hindu minorities will be dismissed as political violence, as Dr. Yunus had dismissed massive attacks on Hindu minorities in August 12-24 as attacks on Awami League. On 11 January 2026, Chief Observer of the European Union Election Observation Mission in Bangladesh, Evars Ijab, called for inclusive and participatory election involving all small ethnic communities, religious minority groups and regional affiliates. In the current atmosphere of systematic attacks, the Hindu minorities are unlikely to be able to participate in election unless the interim government recognizes the attack on Hindu minorities because of their religious beliefs and take necessary measures to ensure their inclusive participation. And I believe that the European Union should intervene with the interim government of Bangladesh to ensure the inclusive participation of Hindus and other minorities and further monitor acts of violence against indigenous people, ethnic communities and religious minority groups, including election process. On this issue, I am joined by Suhas Chakma, Director Rights and Risk Analysis Group, who has not been following the Bangladesh issue but producing reports for international agencies to intervene purposefully for the minority, which also includes Chakmas there. My question to you, Suhas, is 15 Taliban-style deaths in 45 days and there is no outrage in Western media, and Prime Minister, the interim head of the government, is talking about containing a disinformation campaign against them? Is this some kind of a joke, sir?
There is involvement of the Western government in terms of sanctioning whatever is done by the Yunus government, and the Western press and the media and the national press and the media believes that Dr. Yunus has an image as a Nobel laureate and he cannot perpetrate or allow these acts to be, carried out in Bangladesh. So there is some kind of a perception in the Western media, and I think the more problematic approach is, unlike other, as I said, the governments or head of governments, he's taking it personally, and the deaths take place in his own country. They belong to the minorities, and if there is a report in India, he says this is a disinformation campaign. And no one in the Western media in a strong way are reporting about it. So it's very unfortunate, and because it happens because they want Dr. Yunus to succeed, and if you want Dr. Yunus to succeed, then obviously all this kind of killings, etc., in a way for the time being have to be condoned. And in this entire process,
so this comes across your report, the consistency of your organization in taking out information, archiving it and putting it across the world. It looks like a slow genocide.
Well, this genocide has been taking place for a long time. It's not only under this government. If you look at the Hindus, as I always say, the Hindu population in 1800 AD was about 1.19 crores, which increased to 1.39 crores. That's basically 20 lakhs in 225 years. And from the partition of India, we had seen how the Enemy Properties Act was enacted. All the assets of the Hindus were seized. Even when the Awami League came to power after independence, those properties were not returned because the properties were essentially at that point of time taken by the Awami League cadres. And when the BNP came to power in 2001, there was massive violence against Hindu minorities. In 2021 itself, there were massive attacks on the Hindus. And for the first time, I think we have seen in the last 50 years, since independence of Bangladesh, here is a government which actually justifies these acts of violence, but because they say these are, political violence, because they support the Awami League. So when the head of the state himself doesn't take cognizance that there is a religious angle to it, it dies there. And there is not a single government except the government of India which is willing to accept or advocate the fact that these are religious-based violence. And when India speaks up because of the presence of the former Prime Minister Hasina in India, they dismiss as a disinformation campaign. But these 15 Hindus who were killed, this is not a disinformation campaign. It's reported in their newspapers.
Suhas, there is a character of the armed forces and security services. Do you think that the character of the armed forces of the Bangladesh has completely changed? Instead of protecting minorities, upholding the constitution, since they are in a position of power right now, and it's not totally a democratic state anymore, do you think that the character of the Bangladeshi army has changed something on the lines of Pakistan? a complete Islamization of the armed institution. Is that correct to say?
No, I think it's 100% correct to say. I think when Prime Minister Hasina was there, she did not allow, because of the relationship with India, this kind of atrocities to take place openly. And therefore, the law enforcement agencies at that point of time, we are more or less taking action by identifying the Islamic militants and etc. And now at this point of time, if you look at the conduct of the Bangladesh army and the police, etc., they are completely partisan. There is no rule of law, and Hindus especially, I mean, they do not feel secure at all in anywhere. I mean, if you look at the patterns of attack, how do they know that this person is a Hindu? So the most of the attacks which are being carried out, they are basically being carried out from the neighborhood or locality who know that this person is a Hindu. So you could target it or you could kill him and get away. So I would say the army has become completely partisan. They don't play any role in terms of law enforcement when it comes to the Hindus. So the Hindus have been basically left to mercy. And there is one particular person, Yogesh Chandra Rai. His son serves in the Rapid Action Battalion, and the another son is the police. So now the, parents of the police officers, Hindu police officers, if they themselves are not secure, then who could be secure in Bangladesh?
And last question, Suhas, before I let go of you, what does it mean? Will Hindus, Chakmas, Buddhists, tribals, will they get to vote in Bangladesh elections, or they will be herded inside their homes, disenfranchised, both from the electoral process and holding important positions of power in the government, as we saw 6 months ago when there was an audit done by Yunus that how many Hindus were holding posts above the rank of joint secretaries in the government?
Well, I think in this particular case, Hindus, since Yunus came to power, the Hindus have not basically got any job. But that's not the issue. The issue is, I think the Hindu minorities will not go out to vote, and that's also not the main concern. The main concern is for the Hindus is once the election campaigning starts, there are political violence which are expected. And in the process of political violence, their assets, their properties, their daughters, everything will be unsafe. So it's only not question of who is coming to power. That is basically between the BNP and the Jamaatists. And that's a foregone conclusion. The Hindus do not have a choice. But I think the bigger problem for them is whether in the next 20 days, basically from 22nd January till 10th of February, the kind of violence which will be unleashed in the name of political violence, and the Hindus will be evicted. And these small evictions, some sexual assault, unless it's really outrageous, they even do not make the news. So that's the biggest problem. On a daily basis, even today, the Hindus are facing persecution, but nobody will be reporting about it. If you report about it, if you're a journalist, you yourself will be targeted. So who will report about it? And the Hindus are scared to go and document because the Hindu community organizations are not there. So Hindu, Buddha, Christian ঐক্য Parishad, they are also limited by their capacity to operate. So the fear is not to participate in the election. I think the fear is more whether you can protect yourself during this election campaign.
Suhas, thank you so much, and I must congratulate you for doing a wonderful job in archiving the atrocities that are taking place against minorities in Bangladesh. So this is all I had on my on point 5, but don't go away because it's time for a short break. And in my last on point, we will talk about the emergence of Islamic NATO.
With Skoda Supercare and growing network across 180 plus cities, you never drive alone.
Skoda. पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता, उछलता है, दौड़ता, कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
When drinking water turns deadly, it demands answers.
What is really going on there?
News9 brings you
Imagine water that you drink.
contaminated drinking water in Indore, revealing a disturbing link to at least 15 reported deaths.
Typhoid outbreak in tribal areas. 104 patients.
After 15 people were killed.
Foul, frothy water from taps.
You would assume it's safe. It turned deadly.
How is that happening?
Different cities. One national crisis. Bharat. Quest for clean water. News9. In your interest.
A potentially historic shift in global security dynamics is taking shape as key Muslim majority nations explore a defense pact that analysts describe as an Islamic NATO. The emerging alliance centered on Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and possibly Turkey could recast the balance of power across the West Asia, South Asia and beyond. At the heart of this development is a mutual defense agreement first signed in September 2025 between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Under that pact, the two nations pledged that any aggression against one would be considered an attack on both, a commitment closely resembling Article 5 of the NATO treaty. Now reports indicate that Turkey, a long-standing member of Western NATO, is in advanced discussions to join the alliance, potentially transforming it from a bilateral Saudi-Pakistan arrangement into a broader regional security bloc. Bloomberg and other sources say talks with Ankara are well advanced and that a formal agreement appears likely. Each country would bring significant strategic value to such a bloc. Saudi Arabia's financial resources would underpin the alliance, allowing it to fund equipment, logistics and military infrastructure. Pakistan would contribute its nuclear arsenal, ballistic missile systems and military power, which could act as a powerful deterrent. Turkey, meanwhile, would contribute its large and modern military, defense industry and combat experience, including indigenous weapons production. Analysts say that this emerging partnership reflects their shared security concerns and evolving geopolitical priorities of these three nations. And please remember, Turkey and Pakistan were together against India during Operation Sindoor. All three countries have been reassessing their security ties in the wake of recent regional conflicts, questions about Western reliability, and worries about future threats. For Turkey, participation offers a way to strengthen its deterrence posture while expanding its influence across broad Islamic world. Perhaps for Saudi Arabia, it signals a desire to diversify its defense partnerships beyond traditional Western guarantees. And for Pakistan, the alliance provides a way to assert its position as a key military power in the Muslim world and to use it against India. The idea has drawn comparisons to the NATO not just because of the mutual defense clause, but also because of the symbolic convergence of military strength, financial backing and nuclear capability. While Western alliances have dominated global security since the Cold War, this proposed pact could create a parallel security architecture rooted in the interest of major Muslim majority states. However, experts caution that the concept of an Islamic NATO is still in the early stages. None of the governments involved has released a full detail of the formal multilateral treaty yet. Officials in Ankara, Islamabad and Riyadh have declined to formally comment, and some analysts stress that the alliance may be more of a strategic alignment than a rigid military bloc. But the question is, the potential alliance raises issues for neighboring countries and countries that are opposed to the jihadi agenda of Pakistan. In South Asia, an enhanced security partnership between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Turkey could embolden Islamabad's stand against India and shift regional deterrence dynamics. In the West Asia, shared security concerns around Iran and instability in places like Syria have already brought Saudi Arabia and Turkey closer after years of rivalry. Turkey and Saudi Arabia have even held joint naval meetings and stepped up defense cooperation in recent months, indicating that their once strained relations are deepening. Meanwhile, Turkey and Pakistan have long maintained strong military ties, with Ankara building warships, upgrading Pakistani fighter jets and sharing drone technology with both Islamabad and Riyadh. Critics argue that such pact could also draw regional tensions along new fault lines, especially if it requires a security guarantee that treats an attack on one member as an attack on all. For India and other regional powers, the sort of collective defense framework, particularly one involving Pakistan's nuclear status, is closely watched, with potential implications for strategic stability. Yet the discussion signals a broader shift, a willingness among key Muslim majority nations to take responsibility for their own collective security rather than relying solely on the Western alliances. Whether this pact evolves into a fully institutionalized alliance remains to be seen, but the ingredients, Turkish military capability, Saudi financial muscle, and Pak nuclear deterrence, suggest a powerful alliance in making. On this issue, I am joined by Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat, our High Commissioner to Bangladesh, and Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, former General Officer Commanding in Chief, ARTRAC. Thank you both of you for joining me. Let me straight away go to General Shukla. Sir, your opening comments on the stories that have come out that even Turkey could be part of this broader framework, sir.
You know, while I would not like to be outrightly dismissive, I do think that this NATO business is an overused metaphor, and a poorly chosen one at that. I mean, what is NATO as a defense alliance? President Macron many years said that it's brain dead. If Trump does what he's threatening to do in Greenland, NATO is dead. When has NATO ever been a potent defense alliance? I do not quite recall. So that's one part of it. The other is, suddenly this Pakistan doing these defense agreements with Saudi Arabia and now potentially Turkey. What is it going to do? I mean, Pakistan is behaving like a military juvenile. It couldn't protect its own skies on 10th of May, and very seriously, those J-10s, J-17s were scurrying for cover backwards. Is it going to protect Saudi Arabian skies? And is this alliance going to stand up to an Israeli attack backed by the United States? I mean, this is something really over the top. And Pakistan is a nuclear power. Are you telling me that its nuclear assets or nuclear weapons are to be used in an existential crisis when the core of your existence is threatened? Are these nuclear weapons going to be tossed around to defend Saudi Arabia and to defend Turkey? I mean, is the United States not watching? So this is clearly a case of some, very, I would say, juvenile military behavior. And Trump should seriously look at this. This great field marshal that he keeps eulogizing is somebody of, I don't know whether they're harsh words, but very low IQ and simply no understanding of the strategic dynamic. Having said that, the Islamist intrusion into our neighborhood is something we should worry about. I mean, the fact that, Turkish ministers of defense industries, DG ISI have been traveling to Bangladesh. So all that, we should not be dismissive about. But ultimately, strength in the recent past has not come from alliances. It has come from autonomous military capacities. Take Israel. See what the Americans have done in Venezuela. So I'm all for, a re-look at the positioning of the instrument of force in our strategic calculus. Strengthen yourself autonomously. Look at these threats in the region. But this business of a Islamist NATO alliance is clearly over the top. In my view, I don't know what Ambassador Sikri thinks.
Okay, let me go across to Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, well, Islamic NATO is a word which I used. People can accuse me, maybe I have done it to draw the attention, but the idea...
Not you alone, it is being bandied around.
No, General Shukla, I know, I appreciate your point of view. My point of view is, madam, how do you see this conversation between Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, as General Shukla said, now Bangladesh becoming extremely cozy with Pakistan? How do you see this development in terms of even non-military relationship? And, when the press conference took place during Operation Sindhu, the generals categorically said that drones made in Turkey were involved. And when in recent at home at the Army Chief's residence, that drone was displayed, which India shot down.
Yeah. Yes, but actually broadly I would really agree with what General Shukla has said, for the simple reason that there are too many complex factors here. Firstly, I think Pakistan is really enjoying its place in the sun, as they imagine now, ever since the revival of the Pakistan-USA relationship. So now they're trying to draw Turkey into it. We know that some months or maybe a couple of years back, there was a new attempt to make a new alliance within the OIC with Pakistan, Turkey and Malaysia coming together. and trying to create a new center of power within the OIC, but Saudi Arabia quickly squashed that and then they were back to square one. How can we talk of an Islamic NATO when Turkey is also a member of the other NATO, of the NATO which has been in existence for all these decades? So is going to play two sides of the same coin? How are they going to do it? So I think that this is really a bit of hype by both Pakistan and Turkey. Turkey certainly enjoying its position within South Asia in a new way, because they not only have been very traditionally friends with Pakistan, but now with Bangladesh they have come in a big way, and whether it is trade or whether it is defense equipment, they are promising a lot of support to Pakistan. What we have at the moment is the Saudi Arabia-Pakistan defense agreement. We have that, and it is said, although nobody has seen the text, it has not been released, it is said to have a clause of collective security arrangements, very similar to what NATO has in Article 5. So that is one thing that we do have. But I think that agreement was seen largely as a way in which Saudi Arabia would finance Pakistan's purchases from USA. So that was being seen a lot in that context. Now, bringing Turkey into this agreement, which is under discussion right now, said to be under discussion, although neither Turkey nor Pakistan has said anything on it, but bringing Turkey into this is supposed to be bringing in the technology. So they will have the high tech, Saudi Arabia will have the money, and Pakistan has the nukes. So these is the three aspects. But how do you again reconcile this with Turkey being a member of NATO? So, they are bound by their position in NATO, bound by the clauses of NATO, and then how do you expect them to be part of another NATO, whether Islamic or Muslim or any other name that you give to? But security-wise, Turkey's presence in South Asia is something that is worrisome, because they are bringing their drone technology both to Pakistan and to Bangladesh, and quite clearly with Asim Munir's statement about the next attack coming from the east, Pakistan is all set to use Bangladesh as it did in the pre-71 era. So that is definitely Pakistan's objective, because they want to bring in that degree of closeness between Pakistan and Bangladesh. And it is being said that Pakistan and Bangladesh are going to conclude a defense pact very soon. So I think that this is something, and they're also talking about supplying these same JF-17 aircrafts to Bangladesh from Pakistan. So Pakistan is reveling in this newfound. They're saying that, now we don't even need IMF money anymore, because the JF-17 manufactured by them are becoming so popular that it's receiving so many orders from it from all around the world, including, of course, Bangladesh and some of the other like Libya and others. So they think that they are now, going to wean themselves away from IMF loans as well. I think this is a lot of hype, but security-wise, definitely, I've been saying for the last 18 months that Pakistan's attempts to realign itself with Bangladesh are very serious and are a security concern for India. So we will have to look at that very carefully.
I'll put it differently, and that is the question for General Shukla after the break. And the question is, sir, people expected Asim Munir to go into hibernation after Operation Sindoor, but what has happened is that the Pakistan has come out of some sort of a diplomatic hibernation, and it has started building an alliance in whatever way you may put it, in terms of its diplomacy with Bangladesh, or sort of relationship with Saudi Arabia, sir, or with Turkey. Why has that happened under Munir? But after a short break, and that's the question for you, sir.
उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
दूरियां कोई अपनों में ना रहे, दिल में जब उमंग हो, घर है वही जहाँ सब संग हो, रिश्तों को रंग दो।
Birla Opus Paints.
ही इज ब्रिलियंट, लेकिन अक्सर बहुत टायर्ड हो जाता है। मैं क्या करूं?
2 स्पून काफी है। ये प्रॉब्लम दूर करने के लिए लायन डेट सिरप। इसमें आयरन, फाइबर्स, विटामिन्स और किसी भी बीमारी से लड़ने की ताकत बहुत ज्यादा है। रोजाना 2 स्पून लायन डेट सिरप हल्के गर्म दूध में भी मिलाकर पी सकते हैं। लायन डेट सिरप रोजाना 2 स्पून।
Let me straight away go to General Shukla. Sir, my question remains the same. How come Pakistan has been able to come out of this political hibernation, sir?
So you see what the story that Pakistan has sold to the ill-informed, and I would reiterate ill-informed. See, what is the purpose of air power? Is the purpose of air power not to control your skies? So I ask yet again, when Rawalpindi was hit, when Raiwind was hit, when Noor Khan was hit, when Bhulari was hit, where were these J-10s, J-17s? So all these customers that have lined up purportedly to buy the J-17 being manufactured in Pakistan, kindly revisit your shopping list. नहीं तो मुबारक हो आपको ये J-17s. ये कहाँ थे 10 मई को? And so this is this ill-informed narrative that Pakistan has been able to spin around, but it is not a serious military question. And yet, may I say, what is the serious military question? And that is the whole issue here, that we must do 2 things in my mind. And I'm now talking of the Indian context. What should really worry us? We should read the geopolitical leaves a little more thoughtfully and carefully, and then see what we need to do with our instrument of force. And here, you know, the Americans' national security strategy and the events beyond, or the events thereafter, suggest to me that the long-term game of the Americans is to secure the Western Hemisphere, but to project power into the Indo-Pacific to contain Chinese hegemony. And it is doing it on the back of many measures. Tariffs is one tool, but on the back of a $1.5 trillion American military enterprise. And it is just not the money. See the reforms that the Americans have carried out in full marks to Trump and exit. Procurement reforms. Reforms in terms of lethality, war-winning attributes, and it seemingly seems to have worked in absolute resolve and done wonders. So India must revisit the utility of force, see where we need to position our instrument of force in our strategic calculus. Do we need to, enhance our defense spending? Now these are the serious issues. Do we need to remodel our military around the technologies of the 4th Industrial Revolution? This is what Israel has done successfully, the United States has done successfully, and not get, too, shall I say, disturbed by these red herrings of J-17s being bought, because let the Pakistan Air Chief answer me. Where were the J-10s, J-17s on 10th May? Is the purpose of air power to abandon your skies and get Noor Khan base hit? So, I mean, that doesn't worry me, but there are other serious questions which do worry me. Positioning of the instrument of force in the strategic... And just one phrase. There's an old, I think, military adage which says, speak softly and carry a big stick. We need to lower down the rhetoric and concentrate on capacity building deterrence, because that is indeed a serious question in the light of the threats that challenge Indian statecraft.
Okay. I'll take closing comment from Ambassador Sikri. Madam, now the hybrid government is in shape in Pakistan. Do you think it's going to continue like that in near future, which Asim Munir has chiseled?
Well, I think it's hardly hybrid. It's definitely controlled by the military. There is no way that the civilian government has a look-see into anything that the military wants to do for Pakistan after the recent constitutional amendments. So I think we've got another bout of military rule in Pakistan, very clearly and very strongly. What will bring down this rule of military power? How will Asim Munir come down from the throne he thinks he's sitting on right now? That is a question. And I think the dissatisfaction among the people, particularly the supporters of Imran Khan and others, is a big pointer. You can talk on the stage very big and you can say all these things on the global stage, but within your own country, he neither has the respect of his people, nor does he have the support of his people. So how long this disconnect is going to continue is a big point to see as to what's happening in Pakistan. But meanwhile, they're making a tremendous nuisance of themselves on these issues. And I think India's Atmanirbharta program, Make in India program, our the purchase of Rafales announced today, these are very very important measures that we are taking and we will continue to take to get ourselves fully up to the mark on deterrence as we need against whoever it may be, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, anybody.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Sikri. Thank you, General Shukla, for joining me on my show. This is all I had on Point tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 7 p.m. Good night.
तुम डेस्टिनेशन वेडिंग के लिए बजट रोते थे, पर पिक्स कितनी अच्छी आई हैं।
बहुत क्यूट लग रही हो।
ऑब्वियस, अपने दम पे शादी करने का ग्लो।